Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the Royal riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. The Trudeau Liberals, through their allies in the media, are trying to deceive Canadians. First, they tried to claim there was no inflation. That lasted until the inflation report put it at a 20-year high. Then they claimed it was just inflation, nothing to worry about, move along. When it became clear Canadians actually do care about inflation, they tried to claim it was a global phenomenon. The global phenomenon was that every developed country ran a massive deficit and borrowed money from their central bank. Now they are trying to claim that the federal government has no role in controlling inflation. It's up to the central bank to control inflation. Let's be very clear. The central bank sets the interest rates in order to meet an inflation target. But it's the federal government which sets the target. Bill Morneau announced the last 5-year target 5 years and 6 weeks ago. Every serious journalist should be asking Freeland why she's not released the new 5-year inflation target yet. What's the delay? Remember during the election when Trudeau said he doesn't think about monetary policy? The question being asked back then was, when would he set the next 5-year inflation target? If you doubt that some in the media are assisting the Liberals in gaslighting Canadians over inflation, take a look at the latest opinion piece masquerading as an analysis on the CBC website. The author reported this showdown between our finance critic and the finance minister. Pierre is described as, quote, one of Stephen Harper's most enthusiastically combative lieutenants. Polyev has spent the last 2 years cultivating an online following, even playing footsie with some of the internet's conspiracy theorists, end quote. Now, same article, this is how the author describes Freeland. Quote, an erudite former journalist, Freeland is one of the key figures of the Trudeau era. She was the Trudeau Liberal leader's first star recruit nearly a decade ago. Then, the woman he chose to put in front and center against Donald Trump and the deputy prime minister he needed after the bruising campaign of 2019, end quote. Pierre is called combative, while Freeland is called erudite. She's cast as a star, while he's cast as a conspiracy theorist. Freeland actually gave a speech at a conference called The Great Reset, but even pointing that fact out will have Canada Press calling me a conspiracy theorist. The gaslighting doesn't stop there. The Liberals' media allies are desperately trying to convince you that massive deficits are not inflationary. This is false. Of course, massive deficits fuel inflation. Traditionally, when governments run massive deficits, the central banks raise interest rates. Higher borrowing costs like a tax. The cost of everything goes up. This is why it's been so important to have an independent central bank. Justin Trudeau would love to borrow and spend, but keep interest rates low. And although he's used to always getting his way, he can't have it both ways. He cannot run massive deficits without interest rate hikes. He also can't open supply chains with interest rate hikes. So when the central bank says it'll begin increasing interest rates next year, it's not some global phenomenon. It's not because of supply chains. It's because inflation is being fanned by massive deficits. Speaking of the Liberals using the CBC to gaslight you, a very problematic article appears on the CBC entitled Words and Phrases You May Want to Think Twice About Using. This is almost the perfect example of how radicalized social justice warriors have taken over the Liberal Party and its institutions. Let's get something clear. No one has ever accused me of taking pains to be politically correct. As an elected representative, I like to relay the will of my constituents in Parliament. So when my constituents tell me they prefer to be described a certain way, I respect their request and use the language they feel appropriate to describe them. As an example, I used to refer to firearms owners as law-abiding, but firearms owners asked if they could be described as lawful firearms owners. It's not hard to be respectful towards people, but that's not what the CBC article was about. Many of the words have never been used to describe a person or a group. The word brainstorm is not a slur. It never has been a slur. It's not used to describe a person. Of course, the English language changes and evolves, but that's a natural process. And it's a process the media and the CBC should and have covered in the past. Usually it was some activist or academic who'd make a claim that a word should be changed or dropped. Then a reporter would ask people with different views what they thought about the change, including people impacted by the change. The readers would decide for themselves if it was reasonable to adopt or abandon a word. But that's not what the CBC did. They set out to make a list of bad words. They asked only the activists to compile the list, then handed it down from on high. A decree via the CBC. Speaking of decrees, the Liberals have decided to snub Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II while wasting an opportunity to honor Canadian heroes. As a young cadet, I received the Duke of Edinburgh's Gold Award for volunteerism, service, and athletics. Receiving the award from Prince Philip encouraged me to dedicate myself to public service. Sadly, the Liberals do not wish to inspire public service, celebrate volunteerism, or even acknowledge Canada's history. The Trudeaus have a long history of disrespect for Queen Elizabeth. From Pierre dancing behind her back or Justin taking down her portraits as soon as he became Prime Minister, their disdain is clear for all to see. That's why the Liberals are not celebrating the 70th anniversary of the coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Canada has always celebrated the anniversary of the King or Queen's coronation with a medal. These medals are typically given to citizens who've been of service to their community. That's until Trudeau. The Liberals do not believe in rewarding community service and volunteerism. After all, for Liberals, if something's worth doing, it's worth paying a bureaucrat to do it, or a political benefactor. Volunteers have the unfortunate effect of reminding people we do not need to rely on a massive nanny state from cradle to grave. The last thing the Liberals want to do is honor people who demonstrate independence from big government. Trudeau demonstrated his lack of respect for the role of the monarchy when he appointed Julie Payette as the Governor General. For the Liberals, it was just another opportunity to virtue signal and nothing to consider seriously. This is what happens when Liberals disrespect our Constitution and our history. Last spring, a constituent contacted my office and asked if we would sponsor his petition calling on the government to create this medal. He had wanted to honor a fellow Canadian. His petition called on the government to respect our history, respect tradition, and issue a Queen's Platinum Jubilee Medal. But before his petition could receive a response from the government, Trudeau called his pandemic election and killed all bills, motions, and petitions before Parliament. After the election, I asked him to resubmit it, which he has done. Countless Canadians have made tremendous sacrifices over the last decade. Many have displayed heroic levels of public service during the pandemic. Surely we could honor them with a medal. Please sign the e-petition. The link is in the description. In order to ensure a response in time for the actual anniversary on February 6th, the petition will close on December 22nd. Please sign the petition and tell your friends to sign. If you know an outstanding citizen who you wish to nominate, suggest they sign the petition too. Live from Ottawa, this is Cheryl Gallant, wishing you a good night.